spiritual attacks. And with reason, that's totally a thing. It's totally a big deal, and it's totally happening all the time. But we don't talk a lot about physical attacks, and those have been going on since you were first born, since you got your first vaccine, and since you started eating and drinking and breathing air. You've been under physical attack. And most people don't like to think about this. We don't talk about it much. We certainly don't talk about it in church at all. But it's a big deal. A couple scriptures. Number one, I think it's D&C 88:15 says, and the spirit and the body are the soul of man. That's really important. The soul of man is the combination of your spirit and your body. And you have a celestial body, and that's a thing that tends to pull down your spirit. In fact, I think it's 2 Nephi 9, Jacob says that the will of the flesh is death. Naturally, we are all tending toward death. And so, naturally, without you doing anything, your body is tending toward death. One more scripture, in D&C it says, God says that there is nothing temporal to him, but everything is spiritual. Okay, so if the soul is the combination of the spirit and the body, and everything to God is spiritual, Satan only needs to attack a portion, one or the other, or he could attack both. But if he was to attack your body, then he can affect your spirit's ability to steer the ship, to move, to have energy, to think and to reason and to connect to God. What if I told you that part of the reason that you don't have energy is because you don't move around very much? And another part of it is that you don't get enough sunlight on your skin, and you don't have enough vitamin D in your body, and you don't get enough sunlight in your eyes, which tends to contribute to having energy. What if I also told you that you don't get enough natural foods in your body, and that the ultra-processed foods that you're taking in to your body are spiking your blood sugar, are causing problems in your blood, in your organs, and the natural foods actually would tend to reverse that. But most of the foods that we purchase tend to be ultra-processed and tend to kill our bodies and tend to contribute to that death that we're talking about. What if I told you that you have EMF radiation around you, especially when you're holding a cell phone, and I'm holding a cell phone, and that has an effect on your energy level and your ability to think and to act. And let's say that was only, 2%, that only had a 2% effect. Well, what about the lack of light, your lack of movement, your lack of exercise, your lack of vitamin D, your lack of proper nutrition of natural foods? Those things tend to have not just an additive effect. It would be bad enough if it was additive. Let's say that all of those things contributed 2% to your lack of energy. Well, when you add those all up, let's say that's 15%. But that's not just the case, because they tend to have a multiplicative effect. And so all of the toxins that are stored up in your body from the vaccines that you've gotten, from going to the dentist and having your fluoride treatments and your fluoride toothpaste and the fluoride in the water and the other harmful chemicals in your water. Go look at your city's water report, and you will see that there are toxic chemicals in there. And you might say, well, they're below the threshold, they're below the dangerous level. Yes, according to the state. But what happens when heavy metals and toxins, instead of just getting flushed through your body, they add to the amount of toxins and heavy metals that you already have in your system and that you already have in your brain? It's been proven that these heavy metals and these toxins build up in your brain. And so over time, and you don't notice this from day to day, but over time, those add up and they start to cause problems, and it starts to cause us to not be able to think clearly. It tends to cause us to have more diseases and to get sick more often, and it tends to sap our energy. Well, when you start to add these things together and maybe multiply them, it becomes a really big, bad thing. Now, none of these companies that are doing this are, and let's say that they're not doing it on purpose, but the fact that these happen over long periods of time, from your birth to when you're 50 years old or whatever, and then all of a sudden you start to have these health problems, it's not just because you're getting old. It's because things tend to build up, and we tend to just believe and trust in the government, in the people that are providing our water and our food, those who are on TV telling us what is good and what's not. I remember watching some Nickelodeon show with my kids or grandkids, I can't even remember, and the commercials are for these like fruit gusher things, and it's absolute garbage, and so they're being brainwashed at a very, very young age that fruit gushers, I mean, it's made out of fruit, it's got to be good for you, right? And it's gushing with fruit. Well, no, it's not made out of fruit, and it's terrible. It's really bad for you, but we're propagandized by media, by advertisements, by everybody. We have the talking heads on TV. Let's talk about the multiplicative effect. Let's say that you're kind of sapped of energy, and you sit down and you turn on the TV, or you're scrolling through, let's say, Twitter or Instagram or whatever, and these headlines come up, and the headlines tend to be headlines that induce fear and anxiety. Well, when you're already feeling low, when you're already feeling drained and sapped of energy, and then you scroll through and you just see a headline. I'm not even saying you go into the article, but you see a headline that says something about war, something about Ukraine and Israel and Iran and nuclear whatever, and the submarine showing up off the coast of Florida. So you already have your body, your brain, your sapped of energy, you're already low, and then you've fed your body with these things from the talking heads on TV that induce more fear. And then all of a sudden, you're just paralyzed. And it has the multiplicative effect, because if you were not low, if you didn't have these other issues, you might be able to have somebody float by you something that would otherwise be fearful, or you might be able to take into your body something that would otherwise not trigger you into some type of coma. But because you have all these other things existing in your soul, which is a combination of your spirit and your body, and Satan is constantly attacking your body and feeding you all this crap, because you have that and something else comes on the top of it, it is the definition of the straw that broke the camel's back. And so you see people who just emotionally and spiritually break down and can't do anything and are immovable. And it's because of all these little things that are put into our body, into the air, into our water. And all of a sudden, we have no ability to move. Now, is this a spiritual attack? Well, God says that there's nothing that isn't spiritual to him. So yes, it is a spiritual attack, but it is largely, and here on the earth, it has largely been physical, and all these introductions to things. There is nothing. I look around at even things that are organic and natural, and they still have problems and toxins, and companies still find a way to introduce things that are harmful into things that we would otherwise think are healthy for us. And there's just nothing that hasn't been compromised in our world. So this sounds really, really bad. Now, there's a lot of people that don't want to hear any of this and just say, oh, that's conspiracy, that's not a thing. And this is part of the all is well in Zion mentality that, no, everything's okay. We don't need to worry about it. In fact, Jesus is going to come and rescue us anyway, so I don't need to do anything. And thus the devil cheateth their soul and leadeth them slowly into captivity. As Jacob said, the flesh tends to death, but the spirit tends to life everlasting. Now, if we are put in the spiritual world, and I mean, what is our purpose here? Is it just to get the right answer to the quiz and come out and wait for Jesus to show up, and Jesus shows up and he rescues us. That's kind of a lame thing for people to think. If you're in a celestial world, and John says in the book of Revelation, he talks all the time about those who overcome. Those who overcome what? Just spiritual attacks? No, it's physical attacks as well. It is everything that is put on you, and it's a continual physical attack on you. This is a war, and most people don't realize it. This is a massive battleground, and there's people attacking you 24/7, and then you sit back and continue to ingest the foods that they give you, and continue to take the vaccines, and continue to drink the unfiltered water. And listen, I am the least perfect person in the world. The only reason I can talk about this is because for 50 plus years, I have participated in this, and I recognize that I have been brainwashed into thinking that everything's okay, and into thinking that the commercials that are on TV that says, hey, you should really eat this is going to make you healthy, and you should take this drug because this is going to fix all your problems, and you should take this vaccine because it's going to somehow make you healthier. I started to realize that that's not the case, and it's a real problem. So, that being said, we've identified what the problem is. What do you do if you're supposed to overcome? Those who overcome are supposed to be given white robes. So is it just about, I'm just going to read my scriptures and pray a lot? Well, no. Part of the way that you overcome a telestial world is that you stop living a telestial lifestyle. So that would include reversing the things that you're being attacked with. For example, let's say that you realize that the food that you're buying from the store, which is ultra processed, which is full of sugar, which is full of glyphosate and other things like that, that you realize that is contributing to the downfall of your health. Well, if you realize that as a non-telestial person, what would your desire be? Your desire should be to somehow reverse that. Now, it's not easy at all. It's not trivial. But what if you instead said, you know what, I'm going to grow some healthy fruits and vegetables. I'm going to purchase the healthiest natural stuff that I can, and that I am going to set a goal to eat some of that every day. Well, you just in doing that, you have reversed the tide a little bit. Let's say that was contributing 2%, 3% to your lack of energy in your life. Well, all of a sudden you're eating some things that are more natural. So instead of having this multiplicative effect of 2 or 3% plus everything else that's out there, if you can remove that from the equation and not have that be part of the equation, well, that's huge. That's really huge. Also, maybe you say, well, I'm going to research and find some healthier water out there. One thing that I have been trying to do is to detox from the stuff that I know is already stored in my brain, some of those heavy metals that are there. And so every day I take some, I think they're chlorella pills, something like that. Now, I still struggle, and I'm going to, and everybody's going to, because we are all under a 24/7 attack. And you're not going to solve it all in one day. This didn't happen in one day. It's happened over however many decades you've been alive. And so the reversal of it needs to happen bit by bit. So we talk a lot about line upon line, precept upon precept, and Satan uses that to inch things into your life, to bind you with flaxen cords one at a time until you are completely bound, until you cannot escape. So if he's binding you with flaxen cords, how about let's remove those flaxen cords one at a time and get those out of our life. Mormon, he says that there's going to be great pollutions upon the earth in the last days. And this is exactly what we're talking about. He calls us pollutions. Oh, ye pollutions. Well, that's not very nice. That's really not very nice. He says we're pollutions. Well, to the extent that we fill ourselves with those things that pollute, that have polluted us, with things from the media that are contributing to our stress, that are contributing to maybe our lusts, that are contributing to us not being able to think or have energy, to the extent that we ingest those, we are becoming pollutions, aren't we? Mormon and Nephi and the Book of Mormon would say, let's unbind ourselves, line upon line. Let's take some of those things away. Let's reverse that equation. If the equation is x plus y plus z times a times 2.0b, if you were to able to remove any one of those, that portion of the equation, then all of a sudden you have some energy to overcome, which would be really cool, wouldn't it? So, back to Joseph Smith. Thy days shall be known, or thy days are known, and they shall not be numbered less. Well, that's for people to think that you can't, or that God's just going to let you live and protect you while you don't protect yourself is foolishness. We contribute a lot from our things that we eat, to the amount of exercise that we have, to our weight, to whether or not we are taking in a lot of medications, to whether or not we move and are active. There's a lot of things that contribute to whether we die or whether we live, whether we have energy or whether we do not. So if you find yourself, like I do, if you find yourself with a lack of energy, if you find yourself with the lack of ability to think, this is probably overwhelming for a lot of people watching this. Probably going, I can't do all this. In fact, talk about those people on TV that are filling you full of stress. Look, Adam is filling me full of stress because of all the stuff he just mentioned. Well, let's not fix the whole equation in one day, but let's think of one thing. What if you were to buy a variety of, let's say, fruits, and have those in your refrigerator, and have a goal to eat a little bit of each of those every day? What would be the effect of that? What if you went on just a short walk every day? What if you sat on the grass for a little while and grounded? What if you bought a grounding mat for your bed? And what if you started with the things that you know? What if you started reversing that trend? Now, people love the word of wisdom, and they go, I keep the word of wisdom, and that's why I've got a temple recommend. That's why I'm a good person. Well, we almost worship the word of wisdom, and there's a lot of good stuff in there. There's totally a lot of good stuff in there. But if you think that the word of wisdom is everything, if you think that the word of wisdom is all that God's ever said on the issue, then, man, does God not speak today? Does he not use his servants, the various different people that are out there that are helping us wake up to the conspiracies in this world, in the United States? Does he not use those people to help us understand what the harmful things are? Because I can tell you the word of wisdom doesn't talk about glyphosate at all. It doesn't talk about the water that we drink and the toxins that are in there. It doesn't talk about fluoride. It doesn't talk about it doesn't talk about EMF. The word of wisdom doesn't talk about EMF. Does that mean we don't need to worry about it? Well, word of wisdom doesn't talk about a lot. So yes, we should obey the word of wisdom, but as it says in 2 Nephi chapter 28, says, God says, just because I've said one thing, do you think that I can't say another thing? And this is part of the Bible thing. It's like, well, yeah, I gave you the Bible, and then you reject the Book of Mormon. And now he would say to you today, I gave you the word of wisdom, and then you say that that's it, and that's all you have to obey, and that you're going to be a specimen of health. That's just as ignorant as people who reject additional scripture. Just as ignorant. God wants you to use your brain. He wants you to think. He wants you to set goals and incrementally to overcome those things that are attacking you. If you allow people to attack you 24/7 and to put things into your body 24/7, and you never do anything to reverse that, then do we get what we deserve? I mean, I get that there's a lot of stuff out there that is attacking us that we don't see. And I get that we can't really see the invisible part of it. Satan works in the dark, and so do his minions, so do the people on this earth that are doing things. And then there's a lot of just selfishness of people that put out foods and things like that have harmful substances in them, and they put them out in ignorance. There's a lot of that. I get that. But for those things that we know and understand, that we have the capability of comprehending and of reversing, we are obligated to overcome. We're obligated to do something about that. And the cool thing is about this is not oppressive. It actually frees you. So there's a flaxen cord that's attached to you that's binding you down. You can free yourself of that, and you can free yourself from another one. You go take a walk and free, and all of a sudden you reverse this trend of not having energy, of not having muscle, of not being able to act, of not being able to think correctly. As you free yourself from that, you free yourself a little bit at a time. It's not something that you can do all at once. It's not 100% in a day. But if you could do 1% in a day, over 100 days or a few years, if you could permanently remove some of the bad things from and introduce good things into your life, what would be the effect of that over time? It would be huge. It would be huge. So God's given us a lot. There's a huge portion of the equation is your body. And your body consists not only of your flesh here, but your mind. Your ability to think is part of your body, and your ability to think properly and to process things in your mind has everything to do with what other people are attacking you with, and whether or not you are putting good things into your mind and into your stomach, into your gut. So I would just encourage people to try to reverse the tide of toxic things that are coming into our bodies, because your soul is the combination of your body and your spirit, and you've been attacked for decades and decades and decades. And so it's probably time to not just care for your spiritual self, but if you can undo those things physically, then your whole soul, your whole body, that combination becomes way more powerful, and you begin to have energy that you never otherwise would.